Hello, hello, and welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast. I'm your host, John Harris, and today on the Rock Metal Podcast, we have A River Crossing. And they have a new album called Forsaken, which released on March 25th via Antigone Records. Right now I'm being joined by Jonas and Livio to share some more information about this release, what the boys have got going on, how life is these days in Switzerland. So boys, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having us. Thanks.
Hello, John. Hi.
Well, hello. You're quite welcome. Thanks for making some good music. It makes my job a lot easier.
Thanks. Yeah, we try to make the best music we can, of course, but it's always up to the audience if that pleases you, of course.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, one of the things that struck me about this release, speaking of engineering and whatnot, I don't know if IT is necessarily engineering, but because you had mentioned IT at the beginning of the call.
Yeah.
The record has a very unique sound because I think what it's labeled as is post-rock or whatever, but it almost kind of has a metalcore-ish sound to it. Not in the way you're playing, but just in the way that it was engineered. With like really freaking huge drums. Like you're riding those things like it's a rocket ship. I guess what went into the decision to make the record sound the way it does?
Well, we actually wanted to have the drum sound very huge. This was by intention, but I think part of the sound was also because we started to work with a producer in Switzerland who is not really working in post-rock usually or in metal or something, but he is usually working in pop or Americana stuff. So we have that kind of very strange mix-up, and that probably also ended up in some kind of metalcore-ish sound as well in the end. Of course, we also had an American fellow working on the mixes, engineering all that stuff we recorded and doing the mastering as well. So, yeah, this was by intention. But we are very pleased with the results in the end.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So, what you guys mentioned the producer normally doesn't work with your guys' kind of stuff. So, how did he get involved? Is it Reto Burrell?
Yes, exactly. Reto Burrell. He works with our singer. Well, he has a part-time job together in, how's it called in English? In German, it's a Notschlafstelle. Which is where all the homeless guys can find shelter during night. So it's some social work stuff.
You just said it. A shelter for homeless people, specifically at night, not in the daytime though. That would be...
exactly. Specifically at night.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just to get through the night. Yeah. And yeah, they know each other because they both work there part time, and Reto came to a gig of ours and we were playing all that stuff, and he was surprised about our sound and what sound that even is, because I think he is not really into post-rock until then. And then he started to come to a tour with us to Paris and all that stuff, and it was great. And he said, yeah, if you ever go on and make an album, I'd like to be the producer. So this was the story.
Wow. So this relationship has been fostering for quite some time, because you mentioned some things that haven't happened for a year and a half at this point in most of the world.
Touring. Yeah, exactly.
He's like, he came out to one of our shows. I'm like, whoa, okay. You guys are old. Remember those things, shows? Well, that's fantastic. Very, very cool stuff. So, came out to some shows and whatnot. I'm kind of curious, how did he end up developing the sound? Because obviously I hear you guys as a recording, but I'm actually really curious, A River Crossing 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever this was, playing, a show at I'm guessing some kind of a venue in Paris there. What would I be hearing?
Well, we used to play more extensive instrumental stuff, I would say. I think the producer now just tried to get also some other people attracted to our sound. And we also think that nowadays post-rock became kind of boring mostly because it's that always repeating same scheme, and we wanted to break out of it. And sometimes you need a little help, I think, because if you are into post-rock, you tend to always repeat stuff and give it another shot. And yes, maybe we could just alter a little thing and then play it once again. And in the end, you have like a 10-minute song, but you really do not come to the point. And I think he helped us quite tremendously with that approach. Although we had some discussions, of course, as well, because we did not really want to get too much in that pop scheme.
Mm-hmm. No Justin Biebs for you guys.
No, not really.
You guys could get rid of your drums and just have snaps and claps, and then that'll be your rhythm section.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Would be easy.
Yeah. Get some guest vocalists in there.
Yeah.
Now, something you mentioned a few times is the post-rock thing. And for anybody listening in who doesn't really quite understand what post-rock is, or they're actually hearing this term for the first time, going, what do you mean post-rock? Like, when did we, what does that mean?
Hard question.
Yeah, I think you could say it's like, sometimes it's like movie score. Often movies use post-rock sound as scores because usually post-rock does not have vocals, and it's very easy to have some feelings to it because you try to use that sound with some emotional scenes, for example, and this basically works. And if you want to listen to post-rock, I think you can start. Sorry, the dog. You can start with Mogwai, for example, which is one of the I think biggest post-rock bands out there at the moment, and they even started.
Jonas, can we see the beautiful dog? You want to bring the dog up, like show the dog to the camera?
No, she wanted to say hello to my girlfriend who just came home.
Okay, beautiful. Because, I mean, we're wide open here. If you want to show both the ladies of your life, that would be... What kind of dog, Jonas?
Well, it's a Border Collie mix, probably. She's from the street and of Bulgaria, so no one really knows.
Oh, wow, that's getting deep. It just went deeper and deeper and deeper, like, Border Collie, but we don't really know. From the streets, from Bulgaria, like, whoa.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's a long walk. How did she get to Switzerland, or were you in Bulgaria playing post-rock shows and then this?
No. This was through an organization basically that tries to find new homes for homeless dogs.
Yeah,
and basically in Switzerland we do not have homeless dogs. Of course, that's not really known to us.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm from North America. United States and Canada both have some kind of the pound, is what we call it, a place for stray dogs and cats. And if they don't get a home, they get put down. And there are a lot of people who are really against that. And I've been to countries such as Russia, for example, and probably in Bulgaria as well, where there is no humane society, as they're called, or a pound. And you've got dog gangs running around loose with like dead dogs in the streets, and it's because they will form gangs. When I saw it, I was like, I've heard that, like I've read that, but actually watching a dog gang go by, like a gang of dogs, and there's a leader, like a wolf pack leader, like woo,
It's their nature.
Yeah, it is. Just like you guys have the nature of post-rock. Now, we've got this. We've got a couple of tracks. I know Hidden and Torn were two tracks that you guys wanted to chat about. I also want to include Death because it has a video. So on today's show notes, if you guys are listening in if you go to therockmetalpodcast.ca, or if you're listening on any of your devices, Apple Music, Google Play, Spotify, you're watching on YouTube right now. Hi. You can see us. There should be links to Hidden, the music video, and Death, the music video, which are stunningly captivating. Maybe take us through these tracks. Hidden and Torn were the two ones we wanted to chat about today. So take us through these tracks, Hidden and Torn.
All right. I think Hidden started out as a post-rock song. And it's clearly a post-rock song.
We know that, Jonas.
Yeah.
Does it ever start out as not post-rock and you guys are like, whoa, time out. Let's ring this back?
Not really time out. Not really time out, but sometimes we get some crazy ideas, like some metalish stuff. But yeah, mostly it's only a pattern, just a part of the song, and we really do not find anything else that would fit to it. So maybe we put it back to the backlog and just take it out if we probably need something harder or something. But here in Hidden, we had developed, I think, the whole song, and in the end, we just felt like something is missing. And Felix then came up with some vocals, and yeah, it just added so much more afterwards. So we really try to use vocals not as the main part of the song, but more like an additional instrument, just to enhance probably the emotions we like to transport, for example.
I dig that. Yeah. I was just chatting about that with a friend of mine the other day who is starting to produce his own music, and we actually got into the conversation of foreground versus background, because we do audio engineering here at Behind the Podcast. And so I was talking to him about foreground versus background and how he has some vocals in his mix that some parts of them should be more background. It's just another instrument, but that's the instrument you're choosing to use. Hey, cat. And the Bengal tiger. Shopkeeper and his son were a different story altogether. I'd beat him to death with their own shoes. But then Ozzy got the brown M&Ms and put on a great show. Okay. And sometimes the vocal is obviously, the lead, still an instrument, right? But still the lead. Yeah. And so I thought that was interesting, just that connection in my own head, that I was actually just chatting with somebody about this, where the vocal doesn't have to be, standing up front. It can just be an emotional part of the song, which it sounds like you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you know Moving Mountains, the band?
Yes, not personally, but I know of them, yeah.
All right. One of the first albums, I think their first album, was produced pretty low end, and they had the vocals pretty in the background. But I think this was especially what I thought was very charming and what really got me into their sound. Mm-hmm. And that's some specialty, I think. So it can have some appeal if you really have the vocals in the background, but plays kind of a big role. Mm-hmm. Because listening to Moving Mountains, they almost always have vocals on it, but it's not in the center. It's more in the background, and they try to even out all the instruments. And I think that's a very interesting approach. We did not really use that approach on our album. I mean, vocals are pretty in the front in the mix, in the front of the mix, mm-hmm. But not used extensively.
Correctamundo. Yeah. I'm looking them up right now to see if they're post-rock, and according to Wikipedia, they are a post-rock band, Moving Mountains. So
yeah, safe.
Yeah, the post-rock and metal podcast today. Fan-freaking-tastic. So, Jonas, you have a beautiful girlfriend, a beautiful dog, a beautiful cat. You like to live with water, as your shirt says.
Yeah,
Viva Con Agua. Live with water.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, this is an NGO trying to gather money for water projects, drinking water projects. So this is something Livio and me have been doing for quite some years, just besides our work and besides music, trying to make the world a bit better, if possible.
Yeah. Does it feel sometimes like, what's the point? I don't mean to sound depressing, but like, do you ever stop and go,
sure.
Man, I'm one guy in Switzerland and these massive corporations are the real problem. What in the world am I supposed to do?
Yeah, that's right. It sometimes feels like it's just a drop on a hot stone, as we say in Switzerland. But in the end, if you go to those countries you try to support with that money you gather, you see real people behind it, and if you even can help one single family, that's worth it. All the hours you invest, it's totally worth it. So even it's just one drop on a hot stone, it's really worth it.
Yeah. Tropfen auf dem heißen Stein.
Yeah, exactly.
There it is, everybody. Groovy. Okay. And speaking of being German, Livio, you look very organized behind you, and I don't know if that's a stereotype outside of Switzerland, but when I think of Germans, I think of how organized you are.
Yes, it's in the office.
Okay, good. So you're considerably unorganized in your personal life because you're artistic.
Sometimes.
All right. Das ist echt toll. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, this album, Forsaken, I know that you had mentioned working with Reto, and you guys didn't want to obviously go full blown into pop music, snaps and claps, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
Top 40 now, there's no drums. It's just snaps and claps. But I guess what was the goal? Like when you went into the studio with him, oh, Livio, who is it?
The boss.
Oh,
The boss.
the boss. Oh, no. All right. Well, tell the boss I say, Hallo, wie geht's dir? Ach ja, sehr gut. Yeah! Yeah! Sehr gut. Okay. What was the intention? When you guys sat down with Reto, what did you say to him? We want to create an album that is...
What do we say to Reto? I think we had in mind to create an album that is both interesting for the post-rock people, which mostly are kind of nerds, I think, because if you go to post-rock concerts, you always see the same people, at least in Switzerland, because it's very tiny and the shows are very tiny. But at the same time, also try to, just to get our music out to somewhere else as well, to try to bring the music to people that usually do not live in that post-rock bubble, but to give our music the opportunity to grow a bit more towards other genres, for example. And we even had a discussion is this still post-rock or not? Should we rename our genre, or is it still post-rock? And in the end, of course, it doesn't really matter, but it does matter if you have to explain in a few sentences what kind of music you make. So, yeah, that's some discussion going on. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys think that what we're holding in our hands, Forsaken, is it Forsaken? Is that why it's called Forsaken? Or is it exactly what you guys set out to do?
You mean because of the title Forsaken?
Yeah, were you guys like, man, we missed the mark on that one, but that's all we could afford, so you are Forsaken, and then just out into the world.
Yeah, probably. Well, we started the writing process before Corona, but in the end, I think the album got its name during the pandemic. It was a suggestion by our vocalist, Felix. and we felt that it really fits pretty well for the whole situation, and also for the texts that he wrote that are not very optimistic mostly, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a pandemic album, like from beginning to end? These songs were written during the pandemic, recorded during the pandemic, everything, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, I think half of the songs we had before the pandemic started, not recorded, but we had them ready. And the second half has been developed during the pandemic, and we had some time off. We went somewhere a bit into the mountains, and we tried to finish the songs. And yeah, that was nice. But it also, I think, it was at the beginning of the pandemic, last summer. So I think the urge of getting out was not that big at that time, since we only had a few months into the pandemic. I think the songs could sound differently now. But
Good, maybe.
Yeah, could, but you never know.
Yeah. So you guys went to the mountains immediately because you're from Switzerland. I thought of Elevati and the Call of the Mountains, and just imagining all these bands from Switzerland, and you guys all know each other, and you're all in the same music video spot in the same mountains. And then you're like, oh no, those are the Italians over there. They've come up to film a music video too, and they're like a Italian black metal band, and they're like, argh. Does that happen?
No, not really, not really. But I think a lot of Swiss bands try to bring up the Swiss origin of their sound as well. We didn't intend to do so very much, but I think sometimes it comes just through. Yeah.
Yeah. Groovy, mister. Okay, so we chatted today about Bulgarian street dog gangs. We chatted about Viva Con Agua project and how you, sir, are trying to change the world, and how much we all appreciate you for doing that. The rest of us, I think, are giving up.
Thanks.
You're quite welcome. We chatted about Reto Burrell.
Yeah.
And him producing the album. We also chatted a bit about what I'm calling breaking post-rock conventions. You're like, we kind of want to expand out a bit, but we don't want to go too far on this record. Forsaken, which is out March 25th via Antigone Records. We chatted about how Livio has a beautiful office, and I probably would love to work there, unless, of course, he does work that I have no interest in. What else we chatted about? Chatted about cats. We chatted about Jonas's personal life, and I think that's a complete picture of a river crossing. Is there anything that I missed, boys?
I don't think so. Well, we are very very eager to get back on stage, but at the moment it's still very hard. We try to book some gigs now. First requests came in now these days, and yeah, we just see how it goes. We try whatever is possible and try to get our music out to the people, and that's why we created the album in the first place, to play this live. Yeah.
Groovy, boys. All right. Well, thank you, Danke, for coming on to the show today.
Danke vielmals, John Harris.
Bitte.
Sehr gerne. Danke.
Bitte.